Hey folks, welcome back to All Up in Your Business. I'm attorney Aiden Durham with 180 Law Co. in Colorado, and today we're going to dive into the exciting world of copyrights and talk about the copyright registration process. Before we get into all that fun stuff though, if you are new to All Up in Your Business, welcome. Please subscribe, click that little bell so you get notified anytime I post a new video, and check the description for links to additional information and resources. And while I am a lawyer, I am not your lawyer. The stuff I talk about in this video is not to be taken as a substitute for actual legal advice. If you need help with any legal situation, you should consult with a lawyer who's licensed in your state. So before we get into the copyright registration process, let's start with some of the basics of what a copyright is, what a copyright applies to, so we know what we're talking about when we go into copyright registration. Copyrights protect original works of authorship. Think of works of creativity and artistic works, literary, dramatic, musical, and other artistic works like novels, movies, songs, photos, paintings, really anything that has some minimal amount of creativity to it. If it's original and there's some creativity behind it, then it's most likely that copyrights apply. What is a copyright? It's exactly what it sounds like. It's the right to copy. Only the copyright holder has the right to reproduce, display, perform, or make derivative works of that original work. Copyrights apply as soon as the work is fixed in some tangible form. Now, don't take the word tangible too literally. It doesn't mean it has to actually be something that you can physically hold in your hands, but it does have to be, put down in some kind of tangible way. So for example, a blog post, copyrights apply as soon as you write that blog post. It has to be, put down in some way. So the contrary to that is like ideas. Copyrights don't apply to ideas for a blog post, or maybe ideas for a song or a book. Those you can't protect with copyrights. So I just said copyrights come up. Hi, Birdie. Copyrights come up as soon as you create the work and put it in some kind of tangible format. So what does it mean to register a copyright? Why would we register a copyright if we already have the copyrights in this work? Well, like a lot of other things, for example, trademark registration, copyright registration isn't necessary, but it is really helpful and it gives you a lot of rights that you don't otherwise have. For example, by registering the copyright, you have the ability to sue someone for copyright infringement. That's right, if you're kind of confused, you don't need a copyright registration, but if you want to sue someone for copyright infringement, then you do need the copyright registration. It also allows you to claim statutory damages and attorney's fees in some situations as well. So let's get into a little bit of the copyright registration process and how all of that works. Compared to other forms of intellectual property like trademark registration or patents, getting a copyright registration is relatively quick and easy. Not super quick and always, not necessarily always easy, but compared to other types of intellectual property, copyrights, are generally going to take not quite as long and not so much is going to be involved. So there are three things you're going to need to register a copyright. First, you need to complete an application with the United States Copyright Office. You're going to have to pay some filing fees, and you're going to have to make a deposit of the work to the Copyright Office. So you'll begin the process by going to copyright.gov. This is the official website of the United States Copyright Office, and then you can navigate to the registration section. You'll need to create a user account if you haven't already, and then you'll need to fill out the appropriate form, the appropriate application. The specific form or specific application that you're going to use is going to depend on the type of work or works that you're applying to register. There are certain forms for, let's say, just a standard application versus a certain form for maybe a group of unpublished works. Thankfully, the US Copyright Office, they give a lot of detailed instruction and really helpful information and helpful guides on their website. So if you're trying to do a copyright application yourself, I encourage you to really spend some time and go through all those resources that the Copyright Office gives you, because they can be extremely helpful. So with the application, you can submit a paper application, but most of us in most circumstances will use the online application at copyright.gov. The benefits of doing this, we get a slightly lower filing fee. The process is generally going to be faster, and we'll have the ability to kind of monitor and track the status of our application. And it's important to be careful when you're going through the application. Make sure you're providing all of the information and it's all accurate and correct. Otherwise, it might get kicked back or get rejected. I mentioned fees just a second ago. The application fees for a copyright, again, that's going to vary. Right now, it's somewhere typically in the range of about $35 to $85, but there are some outliers that are a bit more expensive than that. But typically for most of us, it's going to be around $35 to $85 per application. And then along with the application and the filing fees, we're going to have to submit a copy or copies of the work to the Copyright Office. We call this a deposit. You have to deposit a copy of the works with the Copyright Office. Sometimes we can make the deposit electronically. Sometimes we have to actually send in a physical copy or a physical deposit. And keep in mind with this, if you are sending in actual physical copies, we are not going to get these back. So make sure it's actually a copy, because you're not going to get it back from the Copyright Office. So once we have everything submitted, a registration specialist is going to examine your application to determine, number one, if the work that we're applying for, if the work constitutes copyrightable materials, so if it's actually eligible for copyright registration. And they're going to go through and make sure all the other legal and other requirements have been met as well. The overall timing is going to vary, of course. Generally, we can expect it to take anywhere from like 3, maybe up to 9 months, start to finish. If the registration specialist determines that the work is not copyrightable, or if some of the requirements haven't been met, then they're usually going to reject the application. They will refuse that registration and they'll send a notice specifying what went wrong, why it's being kicked back or refused. You may also receive a letter or an email or a phone call from the copyright specialist if there are some questions, or maybe if they need some additional information or something. That's not super common, but that could happen as well. Otherwise, if the registration specialist determines that it is copyrightable material and it meets all other requirements, the Copyright Office will register the copyright and they will issue a certificate of registration. Then voila, congratulations, you've received your copyright registration certificate and you are officially a copyright registration owner or a copyright holder. It's important you want to keep that certificate in a safe place. Don't, lose it. Don't let it get damaged. It serves as proof of your ownership of that copyright. You may also want to consider marking your work with that little C in a circle symbol, that copyright symbol, and including your name or the copyright holder name and the year of publication. It's not required to do that, but doing that can act as something of a deterrent for potential infringers. And another little pro tip here, you can use that little copyright symbol with or without a copyright registration. Compare this to trademarks where you can use the TM symbol for anything, but that R in a circle symbol is only for registered trademarks. That's not the case here. For copyrightable works, we can use that little C in a circle symbol whether it's registered or not, and it helps to kind of maybe deter potential infringement. That's all for this episode, folks. If you learned a thing or two, go ahead and give me a thumbs up, won't you? Make sure you subscribe, click that little bell so you get notified anytime I post a new video, and of course check the description for links to additional information and resources. If you're leaving this video maybe a little confused, maybe you're not quite sure what is the difference between a copyright and a trademark, or maybe a difference between a copyright, trademark, and a patent, I've got a whole video talking about all the differences between copyrights, trademarks, patents, how they're different, how they all kind of play together. You can check it out right here, and I'll meet you over there. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Aiden Durham, and I'll see you next time.